So I've been working with a particular student for about 3 months now, and despite having one of the worst swings visually you've ever seen, he manages to scrape out a steady 6 handicap. So one of the biggest flaws that we've really improved on is the way his hips are moving in the backswing, which helps him set up the way his hips are going to move in the downswing. And then just recently he was able to shoot 1 under par 71. So right after this, let me explain. I think it's going to help a lot of you out there fix your swing and get better. Stay tuned. Hey, this is Steve with HitItLonger.com. I continue on my journey to hit the ball longer and straighter than I ever have before. I would love to show you how to hit your longest and straightest too. All right, so we've been working quite a bit on the chair. And of course, you've watched me use the chair to help you construct the downswing pivot and keep the hip depth. But it is possible to get your hips so far out of position on the backswing that it makes it nearly impossible to come down the way I would like you to, or the way that a lot of the best players on TV pivot their hips. Now don't worry, I'm going to show you this from a few different angles, but let's see what the culprit is. You might find yourself in this same boat. Been trying to turn your hips to wind up for a big swing. You might be overturning them very flat. And the problem with this is, it makes it very, very easy to suck the club way to the inside. And that's exactly what my student does or did. He's getting better at it now, but of course from here, we're going to get back on line again. We're going to have to lift the arms quite a bit, but the hips will be much more difficult to get back into place. You see this, I see this all the time in long drive too. It's overturn the hips flat in order to make a really big windup. Okay. Now there's really 2 things you can do from here. You can either, and the most athletic thing that you can do is to early extend and send the weight off into right field. So once you have turned off the correct plane too flat into the inside with the hips, makes the shoulders flat and too far to the inside, the club goes way to the inside. That's the most likely thing that an athlete will do. It makes the most sense to now drive the hips this way. And now we're in a world of hurt coming down too. Might have some power, but the club's stuck behind you. It's stuck late, blocking, flipping, pushing. Really bad duck hooks occurs. The other thing you can do, and again, I'll show you this from a couple different angles. Once you spun your hips flat and turned your hips, say 60 degrees here. Again, it's my trying to get a big windup, but I'm doing it in the wrong way. Now, I'm kind of keeping my hip depth, but the only way I'm going to now get back into the right position is if I spin the other way, this way. So now we're spinning flat in both directions. Not only is this very difficult for the back, for the left knee, it's a lot of stress, but you don't really get a lot of lateral shift this way. It's more, now you've got you've spun this way, now you've got to spin in the barrel the other way. If you try to advance it all, it makes it very difficult to keep your hips back. So now what are we going to do? We're going to turn the hips less. So on the camera, you wouldn't see 60 degrees. You're going to see more like 30 or 40. So watch as I'm going to try to keep my left butt cheek at home. And I'll show you this from a couple different angles. And instead, I'm going to add tilt this way. Tilt more, turn less. Now, to him, that feels like 0 hip turn. Now, 0 hip turn would actually involve the left butt cheek literally staying on the chair throughout the backswing, like this. Okay, see? There's 0 hip turn and all tilt. Wouldn't doubt it if you felt like that for the first time. But I'll tell you, you start to blend in, just a few degrees less hip turn and a few degrees more tilt to where you're feeling the right hip get high and the left shoulder get low. It becomes impossible to pull the club back too far inside out and get into that big roundhouse over the top move. That's what he does. He's as laid off and low here as you've ever seen anybody. But then he lifts his arms up, and at the end of the backswing, he's actually arms above the plane, and then his arms are way above the plane halfway down. So the arm path has really got to make up ground and not just kind of fall into the shadow of the turning body. So you're just after a little bit less turn, a little bit more tilt, and now we've got that club going back a heck of a lot more straight. And from there, we don't have as much catching up to do. Now, you don't have to be perfect in your takeaway and your backswing. We've covered this a lot on my channel, but we do need a backswing that's good enough to set up perfect impact. So you don't want to have to catch up too much, play catch up as you start down, where it ends up being a little bit idiosyncratic and inconsistent. You're going to feel like you're keeping your left butt cheek at home on the chair a little bit more. So if you have this problem where you're doing this style of swing and you have a really hard time throwing the club way flat into the inside going back, you'll see it's not an error of the arms. Instead, it's an error of the axis of the pivot. So we're going here, and now once we're here, and the club's a little more in front of us, you'll see from this back view that it's much easier now to get back to that first move coming down. My left butt cheek is so much more at home that just pivoting back, not only is it less far to go, but it's the natural feeling direction now to move in. Once I'm here, the natural direction feels like this. That's what all athletes will do. I see this a lot in long drive. Instead, we're going to go a little more here. There's our first move. Left butt cheek returns to the chair. You almost might as well just kind of stick them both out and lift the chair a little bit. That really gives you that butt depth and the kind of the Nicholas Need squat, Hogan squat look. And we continue right on around the corner like that. And then once you can do a few softly, like let's say with the 9-iron, you start to feel that pivot action. You're going to see that the club wants to swing so much more on plane without having to manipulate it too much. Arms can just fall in line with the body, and the body will swing the club around the correct circle so much easier. So let's try one here. We're going to go slow. Here's the bad move. Here's the good move. You can see the difference there in the hand path. Makes it much easier to get the hand path working back down correctly once it's going back a little bit better. It's just going to more follow the big muscles of the body. Therefore, the club will come in square to the ball a little bit more consistently. So remember that feeling. If you're just trying to cut down some of the hip turn, not asking you to restrict the hips. I'm asking you to wind them on a different axis. Wind them up as big as you want, but turn them less, tilt them more this way. You're going to feel the right hip high, left shoulder low. You're going to feel like the left butt cheek is staying at home. Then from here, it becomes easy to get to here. Whereas when you're here, that's not going to happen. That's spinning back around to get the left butt cheek back on. It's nearly impossible. So hey, give this a try and see if it's not easier for you to get your swing back on the correct plane. Once you get the body on plane, the arms, much easier for them to fall into the shadow of the body, and the club as well. just swinging around the same axis that the body, the shoulders and hips, their tilt and their turn are helping to create. As usual, leave your questions down in the comments section, or if you have any ideas, what you'd like to see for my next video. Hey, I'm Steve, thanks for watching, and as usual, I'll either see you in the next video or I'll see you longer and straighter down the fairway. Everybody take good care.